good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. It's end of the day, and I would like to just ask you about your inquiry-based learning. Hope you found the lesson useful, and hope you got to do the science experiment. That's one of my favorite experiments about the boards, which I usually use for all my children, including grade 2 and grade 3 children. So today what we will do is we are going to be sharing and talking about science in early childhood. How do we ignite that curiosity? Yeah. Our goal is to understand how science can shape the future of education and foster the love for science in young minds. Yeah. Um, I just want to say that, like, it's science is all about questions, asking questions and finding out, not giving an answer. It's not necessary that you need to have an answer for your question. It is all about investigating and exploring and discovering stuff. It's all about what kind of questions you asked using the scientific method. We spoke about how we use the question is one of the most important thing, which is followed by the uh, hypothesis, and then followed by testing the experiment and coming to a conclusion. And it's like a cycle, the inquiry cycle. Science is all about this cycle, and we don't have to prove things in science. It's not like mathematics where 2 plus 2 is 4, but in science, it's all about what you can disapprove things. You can say, hey, this does not work the same way what we think or what has been written. So it's not about proving things, but about disproving things, okay, discipline. Let me go about. So today's purpose of the workshop is we're going to have 3 big takeaways. One is, how are you going to be developing the scientific curiosity in young learners? The second is, how can we as teachers make it very relevant to where we are? Again, it's about just like the inquiry cycle. How can we make science more connected to what is available locally? And the third one is the safety considerations in early childhood education, not only in early childhood, but all through our life. Safety is one big important thing, and it's at a very early point. It's very important to make them understand what safety is all about and how to keep ourselves safe. So the first part is developing scientific curiosity. So how do you foster curiosity? It is just by taking a walk around your garden, around your classroom, around your home. It could be a museum, it could be a river or a lake which is close by, and that is where the exploration begins. A science does not need to be happening in the classroom. Asking questions, exploring, and discovering stuff is all around us, and it is all about how the world works. So we have to get them ready to become little scientists with really big ideas. So questioning is a very big thing again in science exploration. Asking questions, how can we make our surroundings interesting for scientific inquiry? Giving them the tools. You can just having a sheet of paper and a pencil and maybe just a magnifying lens. I'm going to give you an example of how you can teach them senses in your classroom. So you just have to have a sheet of paper and a pencil with a clipboard, and we'll take them to the background or of our school or a ground or a garden, and you just ask your early childhood children to start listing down the things that they see, they smell, they hear, and they touch or feel. Okay, that's what makes it a big scientific inquiry. Asking questions and looking around and exploring what is around us is what makes a scientific inquiry. So what I'm going to do is, I would like you to pause here and maybe take a sheet of paper. And as scientist, I would like you to look around, what you can see, what you can hear, what you can feel, what you can touch, and draw it out and write something. That's all about using our senses in science. It's all about feel, touch, see, hear, and it becomes a very interesting lesson for your child. The next part you can also do is take a magnifying lens, and once you hear, draw all the things that you see and hear and feel and touch, take a magnifying lens, go a little more closer to your object or your natural things that's around you, look very carefully and draw it out. That is exploration in the early childhood. As simple a tool like a magnifying lens, a pencil, and a sheet of paper can really take your lesson for a couple of hours of exploring your garden using your senses and using the scientific inquiry. When they come back, what you can do is actually also give them, you can actually have a worksheet, and you can write there, I see, I wonder, I smell, I feel, and you can sort out everything that is what you have written down or drawn in the sheet, and sort it out there, and then start the questioning happens there. Yeah, if you can do that small task here, pause here and go ahead and do that activity. Um, that's all about questioning. Now, how can you make this really very relevant in the in your space, wherever you're, whichever part of the country or whichever part of the world you are? How can you see the cultural relevance in your science education? Uh, some of the most important thing is science is actually very inclusive and diverse. As I said, experiments can reflect our cultural backgrounds. Anything that is available locally, it could be an animal, a zoo where you go around, or even the water bodies or the animals that's locally. Every experiment that you see can actually reflect where you are and how you can take this experiment or exploration further. Hmm. Now, if you look at the picture, there are different stuff that you can actually see around you. Can you think of any science experiment that includes elements in your culture? And something that you just now did, looking around and doing, that's exactly what you did. Now, I want you to go a little more in depth. That was one task. Number two task is using the magnifying lens in a small river or a mountain or a garden. Please take some samples of elements from your natural surrounding and start doing it in the classroom with your children. You can actually make a diorama of a habitat for your children. Some of the things that I really do is during the rainy season in India, it rains a lot. And during the rainy season, I actually I make my own little small terrain for these little animals around, the mini bees that's around in my garden, with a little bit of soil and leaves. And I also bring in some snails and earthworms, and with a lid, of course. We also talk about, this is where, when you create that home or a habitat for your animals around you in that terrain, you can actually ask questions. What are some things that the animals need? So even before you start exploring and putting things, collecting things, you can already ask the children, what are some things that is needed if you're going to grow something in the classroom? So I think the four basic things will be air, water, soil, home, food. Um, you make a list of things, and then the children go around the garden and they actually pick up all the stuff from the garden, and they can make their own habitat inside the classroom and take care of the animals. there goes the actually the responsibility and being a caring person. Yeah, so as they start building that up, they take the initiative, they take the ownership of taking care of the animals. Yeah, so that's something that you can definitely do wherever you are. Importance, why is it so very important? Because actually, because the children can actually, when you're local and it's easily accessible, the children can actually reflect on the content and create a sense of belonging. That's what I said just now. And there's a lot of participation. These are the three big things. And they also understand the concept really very well because it's hands-on, and the discovery or the exploration is starting um, by themselves. This is student initiated. So they start having this, bonding with whatever they are doing. Again, here, some of the examples that I have given here, you can have a look at it. Apart from what I've talked to you about the rivers and the mountains and the gardens, you can have, if you have a cultural farm, or, you can even connect science to festivals around you, and why it basically colors, light, why is that happening? Why is it burst? Now, for example, like, in India, we celebrate Diwali and other festivals. And there's a lot of these fireworks and firecrackers. So the science there is asked that question, why is it sound? What is happening? What created it, and how is that kind of connected to what is happening in the country, or what is happening in that festival? Yeah, and when we talk about, this is exactly as I said, like exploring local ecological knowledge is basically the flora and the fauna, which are the flowers and the animals around you, the community. Very, very important is your safety. It's just not about wearing a goggle or wearing a lab coat. I think it's so very important to foster the sense of security for them, uh, uh, to have a very safe environment for them, with the teacher being there as a facilitator, and they have um, the they have they are empowered to go ahead and use the scientific method, and also explore with the teachers around them. Very important is, as long as the children are feeling safe and you have created a very sense of a safety and a secure environment, nurturing that environment is very important, and that leads to lifelong interest, because they know that, okay, science is something that they can explore and they can be also safe. Very important is like integrating this ethical being, I think what happens with the ethical consideration, integrating safety into early science education, um, actually inculcate respect for themselves and for the others in the scientific. Basically, well, this is your teamwork. You have children with a diverse culture, diverse interests, as we spoke in the inquiry workshop. So, yeah, so basically, that teamwork and that environment for the children is very important to have a very involved and enhanced engagement in science experiment. Yeah. Um, how does the teacher do? Basically, ensuring adult supervision during science activities, utilizing age-appropriate educational resources, which is like not use very sharp instruments, but something that is really very safe and not toxic for the children. And also not too very small. It should be pretty big, so that, because, the safety of kind of, making it very clear to the children that while you're doing the experiment, it's important to remember that we don't taste anything, and we use the tools very responsibly. That's very important as the as an early childhood education. Um, what are some things like, how do you teach them about it? You do the visual demonstration of how you're going to be using, role modeling of how you're going to be using the tools. Another thing is, how do you do it? Is also because they are early childhood. It's also like, they are very interested in role play and puppet shows. You can always convey the message of and of how to be engaged at the same time being safe. Yeah. um Hands-on learning, the power of experiments, again, the learning sticks as long as they have the exposure to uh, do hands-on experiments. This is actually, and just by basic questioning, they are developing their problem solving and critical thinking skills. Now, there's a small task for you. This is the end of the lesson. So I want you to be thinking about all the safety things. Now, remember, you are going to be having an experiment where you're going to use baking soda and vinegar. I would like you to list down, um, because baking soda and vinegar, both of them are, you know, um, they're not toxic, but it's also not very safe for the children. So they need to be very careful. While you do the experiments, I would say that you try the experiment and then list down what are the safety measures you have to take as a facilitator for your children to get this experiment done. So write to us, um, what happened when you added vinegar to baking soda. What did you notice? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you feel? And also the second part of the assignment is to kind of list down all the safety measures that you have to take while you do this experiment. Number three, I want you to kind of connect this experiment to something that happens in your country, probably during a festival time, or maybe while you're cooking some treats, or during your festival. Do you see this experiment happening, or where have you seen this? Maybe if you can make a connect, you can make that connect. Yeah. What's very important while you do is observing the changes, keeping a journal. What's something you have observed in nature that makes you so curious? So the end point is children need to have a science journal. The science journal could be just, you could be adding the sheet of paper to your file, or they could have a science notebook where they draw and they experiment, they draw their experiments, they write what they draw out, and if it is in early childhood, they can tell you exactly what they saw, they noticed, what they felt, what they heard, and they can draw it out and you can scribe for them. Yeah. Asking questions, again, as I said, is the heart of science. Let me tell you that there is no silly questions. What's the question you have about the world around you? Could be just one question to start with. So remember, every experiment starts with a question, and you could have no answer for that question. It's all about digging deeper and understanding what's happening around you and how the world works. Yeah. One of the last thing that you could do, of course, is, as I said, you're going to be reflecting on your discoveries, like exactly what I have given you the task for. And you can share with me and with your friends what was something that you learned, and what was the result, and what was really very exciting about your experiment. And I suppose you should also write what was the challenges, because experiments can be challenging and experiments can fail. That environment of, nurturing that environment, giving the freedom to the child and explaining to them that it's okay to fail and for experiments to fail and we try again is something that needs to be fostered for our kids. Yeah. I really hope there are some takeaways for you from today's workshop. I would like you to do the tasks that I have given you. There are 2 or 3 tasks that I've given you. Also do the reflection. Please share with your colleagues and friends and start questioning. Remember, in science, it's all about asking questions. Yeah. Take care. Thank you very much. Ayo, bye-bye.
So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.